Welcome to another edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus. In 1996, while working for the South Philadelphia Review newspaper, I was sent down to Pier 82 on the waterfront in Philly to photograph the SS United States. The ship had just come in July and was docked at Pier 82, and it still sits there today. But now they are preparing the ship to be towed down to Virginia for removal of some environmental issues, and then eventually it will be sent down to Florida to be sunk as an artificial reef. So we're going to be looking at some pictures I shot in '96, and then some pictures I shot in October of 2024 once I found out the ship was going to be towed. Now in '96, I was able to get very close to the ship, but no more. I had to shoot through a fence, and you could see the ship has really deteriorated since 1996. So I guess 28 years on the waterfront has really taken its toll on this iconic ship. Now the pictures from 1996, I was using a Nikon F100, and I believe it was a 24mm 2.8 lens. And the film was Kodak Gold 400. And we used to have that film processed by a local 1-hour lab, make prints. The editor would scan the prints and I would keep the negatives. So the quality isn't the best on these images. They were shot into the sun, some of them, as this particular image was. And of course, the negatives have faded somewhat over the years. This ship is massive. It is 990 feet long, longer than the Titanic. And it is 175 feet tall from keel to funnel. Now, back then, I was able to get all the way down the pier and shoot back towards the ship. But of course, that's no longer possible unless you could get through the fence. So, some more facts about the ship. It holds the record for a transatlantic crossing. And I'll get more into some of these facts on the speed of the ship and so forth as we go on. Now, you could appreciate just how big this ship is in this image here with this gentleman looking up at it. Now, if you've ever driven into Philadelphia from New Jersey over the Walt Whitman Bridge and you look to your right, you can see this ship. And we're going to miss it. If you're driving down Columbus Boulevard in Philly, going north, and you look to your right, there she is. There's some restaurants across the street from the ship, and you park your car, and there she is right across the street. So people in Philadelphia, in this area, are kind of sad to see it go. It's been a landmark in Philadelphia for these last 28 years, and soon it will be leaving. They're saying sometime in late October she will be towed out. So where she sits now, it's on a busy port. In fact, the day I was there, the middle of October of 24, there was a load of lumber which must have just been unloaded, that sat in front of her. So she sits at Pier 82, and you can see her in the distance there. And if you look on the ground there, someone had did a painting of the ship. And I had never noticed that before. I don't know how long ago that was done. And this is to the south of where the ship sits from on Columbus Boulevard. And there I am. My son took this picture of me. And on the pole that supports that sign showing Pier 82 to 84, there was another painting of the ship. And this is my son. We both took pictures. The pictures you're going to see that were shot in October of 2024 were shot by the two of us, and they kind of all were put together. And his were shot on a Nikon Z50 with the kit lens 16 to 50, as well as the I believe it's a 50 to 250. I shot with my Nikon Z8 with the 70 to 200 2.8 and the 24 to 70 2.8. And some of these shots were made. This one, I believe my son took. This was shot right through the fence using that kit lens. Now, we ran into these people there. And there are a lot of people that come down there ever since we heard the ship was going to be moved, taking pictures. And I started talking to this woman, Debbie, and she told me, and this is her son, Matt, and you can see the ship in the background there. And she told me her grandfather worked on the ship. His name was Rene. He was a cook. And he met President Truman on the ship. And she sent me this picture. And he is to the right with the mustache. And this was after Truman was president. So he was an ex-president. This shot was sometime in the 50s. But it's something. It kind of brought me back to the days of working for the newspaper. You would be out on an assignment and you start talking to people, and you never know who you're going to meet. The images we're going to see are from the present day, from October of 2024. And here you can see that lumber that I spoke about. This was shot from across the street. But I'm going to give you a lot of facts on this ship. It is historic in that it, as I said earlier, it holds a record for a transatlantic crossing. Now, the ship was built in Newport News, Virginia. It was built between 1950 and 1951, and it was christened on June 23rd of 1951, and she made her maiden voyage July 3rd, 1952, and the ship was retired in 1969. So a few more facts on the ship. It cost $71.8 million to build. And as I said earlier, it's 990 feet long, has 12 decks, and its top speed in trials was 38.32 knots. And the normal speed in service was 30 knots, which is the equivalent of 35 miles an hour. And on its maiden voyage, which was from July 3rd to 7th, 1952, she went from New York to the UK in 3 days, 10 hours, and 40 minutes. That is a record that still stands to this very day. And her average speed on that journey, on her maiden voyage, was 35.59 knots or 40.96 miles an hour. The ship held 1,928 passengers at full capacity and had a crew of 1,044 people. Now, some famous people traveled on that ship: Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, Cary Grant, Duke Ellington, Walt Disney, and Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy. Okay, this is a photography channel, so let's talk a little bit about photography. This was a shot my son shot with the kit lens, with the 16 to 50, and you could see the fence. He then realized that that lens is so small, he was able to shoot through the fence with it, and this is that shot. Now, I was shooting with my 70 to 200 at 2.8 right through the fence, and you barely see the fence. And then I zoomed to 200 at 2.8 and the fence disappears. So if you need to shoot through something like that, through a fence, a cyclone fence, just use the longest focal length you have at the widest aperture, and the fence could disappear. Again, you see that here. And again, this was at 200 at 2.8. And you could see here, and going back now to one of those pictures from 96, and you could see how much better the funnels looked, how much better shape the paint was in. So we're going to end this video looking back at some of those pictures I showed earlier from 96. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I usually publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I usually try to respond to all comments and questions. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.